The hospital hallways were nearly empty, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead. Dr. Daniel Carter glanced at the clock on the wall, 10:47 p.m. His shift had officially ended nearly an hour ago, but he remained seated at his desk, rubbing his tired eyes. It had been a long, grueling day, one filled with back-to-back patients, emergency calls, and the kind of exhaustion that settled deep into his bones. Most of the other doctors had already left, their white coats disappearing into the night. He could have left too. He should have. But something held him back. Just as he reached for his coat, ready to call it a night, the intercom crackled to life. "Dr. Carter, could you come to room 214? We have a patient in distress." A sigh escaped his lips, but he didn't hesitate. Duty came first. It always had. He turned on his heel, pushing aside his exhaustion as he made his way down the dimly lit corridor. He had no idea that this single decision, to stay a little longer, was about to change his life forever. Inside room 214, a frail-looking man lay on the hospital bed, his chest rising and falling in uneven breaths. His face was pale, his eyes flickering open only briefly before shutting again, as if even consciousness required too much strength. Standing beside him was a woman, his wife perhaps, her eyes red and puffy, her hands clutching his as if willing him to stay with her. A younger man, likely their son, paced anxiously near the window, running a shaky hand through his hair. Dr. Carter immediately stepped into action. He didn't need details right away. He just needed to stabilize the patient. With quick, practiced movements, he examined the man, listening to his labored breathing, checking his vitals, and ordering a nurse to bring additional oxygen. "What happened?" he asked the woman gently, as he adjusted the IV. He collapsed. "At home," she said, her voice cracking. "He's been sick for weeks, but we thought it was just exhaustion. Then tonight, he couldn't breathe properly. We rushed him here as fast as we could." Dr. Carter nodded, his mind already racing through possibilities. The signs pointed to something serious, perhaps a respiratory infection, maybe heart complications. Whatever it was, he had to act fast. Time wasn't on their side. As the minutes passed, he worked tirelessly, adjusting medications, monitoring oxygen levels, making sure the patient remained stable. The woman whispered prayers under her breath, while the young man continued to pace, his desperation evident in every step. "You're going to be okay, sir," Dr. Carter assured his patient, even though he wasn't entirely sure. He had seen cases like this before, and the outcome wasn't always good. But he wasn't about to give up on him. An hour passed, then two. The world outside the hospital moved forward. People slept. Streets emptied. The night deepened. But inside that small room, time seemed to stand still. Dr. Carter stayed, never once considering leaving. His body begged for rest. His stomach reminded him he hadn't eaten since noon. But none of it mattered. He had made a promise to himself when he became a doctor. Every patient deserved his full attention, no matter what. Finally, around 1 a.m., after what felt like an endless battle, the patient's breathing steadied. The tight grip of uncertainty loosened. Relief washed over Dr. Carter as he watched the man's chest rise and fall with more ease. He wasn't out of danger yet, but he had a fighting chance. The woman broke down in tears, clutching Dr. Carter's hands. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you so much." The young man exhaled sharply, as if he'd been holding his breath for hours. "We don't know how to repay you," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. Dr. Carter only smiled, exhaustion tugging at the corners of his eyes. "Just take care of him. That's all that matters." With that, he finally stepped out of the room, running a hand through his disheveled hair. The hospital was eerily quiet now, and the weight of the night finally settled on his shoulders. He had done his job. He had stayed when he didn't have to. He had helped someone who desperately needed it. That was enough, or so he thought, because what he didn't know was that this family, this man he had saved, was about to change his life in a way he never could have imagined. Dr. Carter finally left the hospital at nearly 2 a.m. His footsteps, slow and heavy, as he walked toward his car. The night air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of the city beyond the hospital walls. He pulled out his keys, letting out a tired sigh. He had done what he could. That was all that mattered. The next morning, his alarm buzzed at 6:30 a.m., barely giving him 4 hours of sleep. He groaned but forced himself up, rubbing the fatigue from his face. His life as a doctor didn't allow for much rest, but he had long accepted that. After a quick shower and a strong cup of coffee, he was back at the hospital, ready for another demanding day. By noon, he had nearly forgotten about the late-night case from room 214. That was until a nurse approached him in the hallway. "Dr. Carter, the family from last night is asking for you," she said, looking both curious and surprised. "They've been waiting in the lobby since morning." He frowned. That was unusual. Most families were grateful, of course, but they rarely waited around just to see a doctor again. He wiped his hands on his coat and made his way to the waiting area where the patient's wife and son were standing, looking much calmer than they had the night before. "Dr. Carter." The woman's face lit up when she saw him. "We've been waiting to see you." He gave a polite smile. "How's your husband doing?" "He's stable now, thanks to you," she said, her voice filled with genuine gratitude. We wanted to speak with you privately, if you have a moment." Dr. Carter glanced at the clock on the wall. He was on his way to another patient's room, but something in their expressions made him pause. "There was something more to this." "Of course," he said. "Let's step into my office." Once inside, the son sat down across from him, rubbing his palms together as if choosing his words carefully. The mother remained standing, her eyes scanning the room as though searching for the right place to begin. "My father," the young man finally said. "He's not just anyone. I don't know if you recognized him, but he's a very influential man." Dr. Carter tilted his head slightly, confused. He hadn't recognized the patient at all. Just another person in need of help, as far as he was concerned. He never paid attention to status. The mother smiled softly. "My husband owns a company, a very large company. He's worked for years building it from the ground up. He's a private man, so not many people know his face. But his name is known." Dr. Carter remained silent, processing this. He had treated CEOs, politicians, even celebrities before, but it never changed the way he worked. Every patient was the same in his eyes. The son leaned forward. "We didn't tell anyone about what happened last night. If people knew, it could cause a media storm, and my father wouldn't want that. But we do want to acknowledge what you did for him." Dr. Carter shook his head with a small smile. "There's no need for that. It's my job. I would have done the same for anyone." The woman's eyes softened. "And that's exactly why we want to do something for you." Before he could respond, the son reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, elegant envelope. He placed it on the desk between them. Dr. Carter hesitated. He didn't want money. He didn't expect anything in return. He had taken an oath to help people, and that was enough for him. The son noticed his hesitation and smiled. "It's not money," he assured him. "It's an invitation." "To what?" Dr. Carter asked cautiously. The woman exhaled slowly. "To a gathering at our home this weekend. A private event. We'd really like for you to come." Dr. Carter glanced between them. This was unexpected. He had no idea why they were going out of their way for him, but the sincerity in their eyes told him this wasn't just a polite gesture. It meant something to them. After a brief pause, he nodded. "All right," he said, picking up the envelope. "I'll be there." The son grinned. "You won't regret it." The weekend arrived faster than Dr. Carter expected. He debated whether or not to go, but curiosity won over hesitation. When he arrived at the address written inside the envelope, his eyes widened in disbelief. It wasn't just a house. It was a mansion, a sprawling estate, surrounded by perfectly trimmed hedges and towering iron gates. Valets lined the driveway, parking expensive cars one by one. He suddenly felt out of place, standing there in his simple blazer, while guests arrived in tailored suits and designer dresses. A butler greeted him at the entrance, guiding him inside where a grand chandelier hung overhead, casting a golden glow. Across the marble floors, soft classical music played in the background as guests sipped champagne and murmured in hushed voices. Dr. Carter scanned the room until he spotted the family. The mother beamed when she saw him, hurrying over to take his hand. "Dr. Carter, you made it." The son clapped a hand on his shoulder. "We're so glad you're here." Dr. Carter smiled politely. "This is quite the event." The son chuckled. "It's not just an event, it's a celebration, and you're the guest of honor." Before Dr. Carter could ask what he meant, the doors to the main hall opened, and a hush fell over the room. All eyes turned toward the entrance as an elderly man walked in, supported by a cane. He looked stronger than the last time Dr. Carter had seen him. His skin had more color, his movements steadier. It was the patient from room 214. The mother's eyes welled up with tears as she whispered, "My husband wanted to see you himself." Dr. Carter watched as the man slowly made his way toward him, his cane tapping lightly against the floor. When he finally stood in front of Dr. Carter, he extended his hand. "You saved my life," the older man said, his voice deep and steady. "And for that, I owe you something far greater than gratitude." Dr. Carter shook his hand, still unsure where this was going. "I was just doing my job." The older man smiled knowingly. "That may be true, but tonight you'll learn that what you gave me is something money can't buy, and I intend to repay you in a way you never saw coming." Dr. Carter felt a chill run down his spine. He had no idea what was about to happen next, but something told him his life was about to change in ways he never imagined. Dr. Carter stood still, his heart pounding as he looked into the eyes of the man whose life he had saved. There was something powerful in the older man's presence, something unspoken, but heavy with meaning. The entire room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would happen next. Then, the man gestured toward one of the butlers, who quickly stepped forward, holding a sleek, black folder. The patient took it, turned back to Dr. Carter, and held it out to him. "Open it," he said with a small smile. Dr. Carter hesitated for a second, before finally reaching for the folder. He flipped it open and scanned the papers inside. At first, the words didn't fully register, but as his eyes moved across the page, he felt the breath leave his lungs. It was a legal document, a transfer of ownership. Dr. Carter looked up, his voice barely above a whisper. What is this?" The older man's smile deepened. "A gift, a token of appreciation. That is now yours." Confused, Dr. Carter flipped to the next page, his eyes landing on the bold title at the top. It was the name of a sprawling medical facility, one of the most advanced private hospitals in the region. His pulse quickened as realization hit. This is a hospital," he said, barely believing his own words. The son chuckled. It's not just any hospital. It's one of the finest in the city. My father built it years ago, but he always believed it should be run by someone who truly cares about patients. The older man nodded, and after what I witnessed that night, I knew there was no one better for the job than you. Dr. Carter felt a wave of shock rush through him. I can't accept this. This is too much. The man raised a hand, silencing him gently. Too much? No, doctor. What you gave me was my life. A chance to see my family again. A chance to live. You didn't do it for money, for recognition, or for reward. You did it because you care. That's the kind of person who should be in charge of a place, meant to heal people. The room remained silent, every guest watching as Dr. Carter struggled to process what was happening. He had never expected anything in return. He had simply done what he was trained to do, what his heart told him was right. And yet, here he was, being offered something he never even dreamed of. He looked at the family, the son, the mother, and the man who had been at the brink of death just days ago. They weren't doing this out of obligation. They truly wanted him to have this. Taking a deep breath, Dr. Carter slowly closed the folder. If I accept this, I want to make one thing clear, he said, his voice steady now. This hospital will not be about money. It will be about saving lives. No patient will ever be turned away because they can't afford care. The older man's eyes gleamed with approval. That's exactly why it belongs to you. Dr. Carter finally allowed himself to smile. In all his years of practicing medicine, he had never cared for status, wealth, or rewards. But now, he had the opportunity to make real change, to create a place where no one would be denied the care they needed. That night, as he stepped out into the cool air, he looked up at the sky, feeling something he hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of purpose greater than himself. He had gone into medicine to help people, and now, thanks to one decision, to stay a little later, to go the extra mile, he had been given the chance to do exactly that on a scale he never imagined. Some might call it fate, others might call it luck. But to Dr. Carter, it was simply what happened when you put people first.